Judge Monica Reyes, a seasoned and composed figure in her late 40s, had built a career rooted in unwavering principles and a reputation for integrity. Known for her calm yet commanding demeanor, she had become a respected force within the judicial system. On this particular day, however, her courtroom faced an unusual tension, for sitting across from her was Christopher Halston, a billionaire notorious for his audacious arrogance and unchecked power. With a reputation built on wealth, entitlement, and a blatant disregard for accountability, Christopher believed he was untouchable. He entered the courtroom with the air of someone accustomed to bending rules in his favor, his tailored suit and dismissive smirk serving as a stark contrast to the solemnity of the proceedings. Judge Reyes, however, was unfazed. She had encountered arrogance before, and this day would test her resolve like never before. The case before the court involved allegations of financial misconduct on a massive scale. Christopher was accused of orchestrating a fraudulent scheme that had siphoned millions of dollars from unsuspecting investors. As Judge Reyes began the proceedings, her measured tone set the stage for a fair and meticulous examination of the case. "Today, we address the charges brought against Christopher Halston," she announced, her gaze sweeping across the room, ensuring that her authority was clear to all. Christopher, leaning back in his chair with an air of indifference, interrupted her mid-sentence. "Excuse me, Miss Reyes," he drawled, emphasizing her title with a condescending tone that rippled through the courtroom like a shockwave. Heads turned, whispers filled the gallery, and an unmistakable tension settled in the air. Judge Reyes, unflinching, met his gaze with quiet strength. "It's Judge Reyes," she corrected, her voice steady and deliberate, cutting through his audacity like a blade. "Address me properly, Mr. Halston." The billionaire's smirk widened, but Judge Reyes refused to engage with his provocations. As the proceedings unfolded, Christopher's interruptions grew bolder, his dismissive remarks punctuating the courtroom's attempts to maintain order. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and offered sarcastic responses to every question directed at him. His contempt for the process was palpable, a performance designed to undermine the court and assert his belief that he was above reproach. Yet, Judge Reyes remained calm, her unshakable composure an unspoken declaration that justice would not be derailed by his theatrics. During a recess, the courtroom buzzed with whispers, and social media lit up with updates about the trial. Headlines painted Christopher as an arrogant figure clashing with a formidable judge. In her chambers, Monica's young assistant, Lily, voiced her frustration. "Why didn't you shut him down immediately, Judge?" she asked, her tone tinged with disbelief. Monica poured herself a glass of water, her movements deliberate and reflective. "People like him," she explained, her voice calm, "dig their own graves. You just have to give them enough room to do it." Lily frowned, her concern evident. "But he's so smug, so confident he'll get away with it." Monica smiled faintly, her resolve unwavering. "That arrogance is his greatest weakness." As the trial resumed, Christopher returned with renewed confidence, his condescending demeanor as sharp as ever. He muttered remarks loud enough to reach Monica's ears, questioning her qualifications and ridiculing the court's authority. Yet Monica's focus never wavered. When Christopher's legal team presented documents intended to exonerate him, Monica's sharp scrutiny revealed inconsistencies. "Mr. Halston's counsel," she began, her tone icy, "are you certain you want these documents entered as evidence? I suggest you review them carefully." Her calm assertion sent ripples of unease through the courtroom, but Christopher, unwilling to relinquish his bravado, stood and shouted, "You have no authority to talk to me like that. This court means nothing to me." His voice echoed, his arrogance reaching a fever pitch. Monica remained composed, letting the silence linger before addressing him. "Mr. Halston," she said, her voice measured, "this is your final warning. If you continue to disrupt these proceedings, I will hold you in contempt of court. Christopher laughed mockingly, his entitlement on full display. Final warning. That's cute, he sneered, eliciting audible gasps from the gallery. Monica, unshaken, asserted her authority once more. This courtroom is not a stage for your theatrics, Mr. Halston. If you cannot respect this process, you will face the consequences. The courtroom's atmosphere shifted. Social media erupted with support for Monica, hashtags like #JusticeForAll and #HalstonVirreyes trending within minutes. The tension escalated further when the prosecution presented damning evidence and called a key witness to the stand, a former associate of Christopher's who detailed his fraudulent schemes with chilling precision. Christopher, true to form, interrupted repeatedly, his arrogance undeterred. "This is hearsay," he bellowed, attempting to discredit the witness. Monica's response was swift and firm. "Mr. Halston," she said, her tone carrying the weight of her authority, "you are out of order. Another disruption, and you will be removed from this courtroom." As the witness continued to unveil the depths of Christopher's deception, the cracks in his confidence became visible. His smug demeanor faltered, replaced by unease. The gallery, once tense with uncertainty, began to rally behind Monica, their applause a testament to their faith in her unwavering pursuit of justice. By the session's end, the writing was on the wall, Christopher's defense was crumbling, and the evidence against him was insurmountable. Monica adjourned the court with a declaration that federal authorities would further investigate Christopher's dealings. Her words were not just a conclusion to the day's events but a promise that the wheels of justice would continue to turn, undeterred by wealth or arrogance. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for her statement. Monica's response was simple yet profound. "This wasn't my triumph," she said. "It was a victory for the principles of justice. Justice is not perfect, but it is persistent." The trial became a turning point not only for Christopher Halston but for the community's faith in the judicial system. Monica's steadfast commitment to integrity and justice reminded everyone that no one, no matter how powerful, was above the law. Her calm response to Christopher's arrogance turned a potential spectacle into a profound lesson, leaving the courtroom and the world watching in awe of her resolve. As the second day of the trial began, Judge Monica Reyes entered the courtroom with the same composed demeanor that had become her hallmark. The gallery was packed to capacity, the atmosphere crackling with anticipation. Reporters, community members, and legal professionals had all gathered, eager to witness what was quickly becoming one of the most high-profile cases of the decade. Christopher Halston was already seated, his trademark smirk firmly in place. Today, he appeared even more emboldened, dressed in an impeccably tailored navy suit that screamed wealth and power. As the gavel struck to call the court to order, Christopher leaned back in his chair, his expression one of condescension, as if he were merely indulging the proceedings rather than standing trial for orchestrating one of the largest fraud schemes the state had ever seen. The prosecution resumed its presentation, this time focusing on the vast network of shell companies Christopher had allegedly used to funnel millions of dollars into offshore accounts. Evidence after evidence was laid out, each document meticulously linked to a timeline of fraudulent transactions. The gallery remained silent, captivated by the level of detail and the brazen nature of Christopher's alleged crimes. Witness testimonies painted a picture of a man who operated with complete disregard for ethics or legality, exploiting loopholes and manipulating contracts to enrich himself at the expense of others. Christopher's defense team, clearly under immense pressure, stumbled through their objections, their confidence visibly shaken. It wasn't just the strength of the prosecution's case that unnerved them, it was the quiet, unyielding authority of Judge Reyes. Her sharp, discerning questions cut through weak arguments like a scalpel, exposing inconsistencies and forcing the defense to reevaluate their strategy on the spot. Christopher, however, seemed undeterred by his team's struggles. At one point, as the prosecution introduced damning emails directly linking him to the fraudulent transactions, he chuckled audibly, drawing disapproving glances from the gallery and an immediate reprimand from Judge Reyes. "Mr. Halston," she said, her voice steady but firm, "this is not a forum for your amusement. Your behavior undermines the gravity of these proceedings and will not be tolerated. Consider this your final warning." Christopher's smirk faltered slightly, but he quickly recovered, muttering under his breath just loud enough for those around him to hear. Final warning seemed to be her favorite phrase, he quipped to his lawyer, who avoided eye contact, clearly uncomfortable with his client's flippant attitude. As the day progressed, the tension in the courtroom grew. The prosecution introduced a critical piece of evidence, a series of wire transfers that had been traced to accounts in Christopher's name. The amounts were staggering, each transaction a testament to the scale of his alleged fraud. To bolster their case, they called to the stand a former employee of one of Christopher's shell companies. The man, a mid-level accountant, appeared nervous as he took the oath, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched a stack of documents. But once he began to speak, his voice grew steadier with each word. "Mr. Halston orchestrated everything," the witness testified, detailing how Christopher had instructed employees to falsify records and create dummy accounts to conceal the movement of funds. "He told us to do whatever it took to make the numbers look right. If anyone questioned him, they were fired or intimidated into silence." The gallery buzzed with murmurs as the witness recounted incidents of coercion and threats, painting a chilling picture of Christopher's control over his operations. Throughout the testimony, Christopher maintained his air of nonchalance, occasionally rolling his eyes or shaking his head as if dismissing the witness's account as nonsense. But Judge Reyes's sharp gaze never wavered, her piercing eyes scanning every reaction, every movement, as if cataloging Christopher's behavior for future reference. When it was the defense's turn to cross-examine, their strategy became clear: discredit the witness. The lead attorney, a seasoned litigator with a reputation for aggressive tactics, attempted to portray the accountant as a disgruntled former employee with an axe to grind. "Isn't it true," the lawyer asked, his tone dripping with skepticism, "that you were terminated for incompetence? That you were unable to meet the standards of the position you held?" The accountant hesitated, his face flushing, but before he could respond, Judge Reyes interjected. "Counselor," she said, her tone firm but measured, "I will remind you to remain focused on the facts relevant to this case. Character assassination will not substitute for substantive cross-examination." The defense attorney faltered, his momentum disrupted by the judge's intervention. It was a subtle but significant moment, a reminder that Judge Reyes would not allow the trial to devolve into theatrics or personal attacks. As the session continued, the prosecution introduced yet another bombshell. A whistleblower from one of Christopher's financial firms had come forward with additional evidence. This individual, whose identity was protected for safety reasons, had provided recordings of meetings in which Christopher explicitly directed his team to carry out fraudulent activities. The recordings, played for the court, were damning. Christopher's voice, unmistakable in its tone and arrogance, could be heard issuing orders and dismissing concerns about legality with chilling nonchalance. "Just make it happen," he said in one recording, his voice dripping with contempt. "That's what I pay you for. If you can't handle it, I'll find someone who can." The gallery was silent as the recordings played, the weight of Christopher's words hanging heavy in the air. Even his defense team seemed deflated, their earlier confidence replaced by visible discomfort. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Christopher's arrogance remained unshaken. When the court adjourned for the day, he strolled out of the courtroom as if he had just attended a casual meeting, his smirk firmly in place. But for those who had been present, it was clear that the trial was turning against him. Social media buzzed with updates, Hashtags like hashtag Justice for All and hashtag Halston Trial trending as people debated the unfolding drama. Judge Reyes, meanwhile, returned to her chambers, her expression thoughtful. She knew the trial was far from over, and that Christopher's wealth and influence could still pose significant challenges. But she also knew that justice was not a sprint, it was a marathon, requiring patience, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to the truth. As she prepared for the next day's proceedings, she reflected on the lessons her career had taught her, that arrogance is often the mask of insecurity, that power untempered by accountability is a dangerous force, and that the pursuit of justice is a noble but often arduous path. The courtroom's atmosphere had shifted, its dynamics transformed by the evidence presented and the quiet authority of Judge Reyes. While Christopher Halston continued to exude confidence, those who observed the trial began to see through his facade. The stage was set for a showdown that would test the limits of the judicial system and the resilience of those committed to upholding the principles of justice. And at the center of it all was Judge Monica Reyes, unwavering in her resolve to ensure that the scales of justice remained balanced, no matter how heavy the weight placed upon them. As the trial progressed into its third week, the tension in the courtroom had reached a palpable crescendo. Judge Monica Reyes presided over the proceedings with her trademark composure, her gaze unwavering and her demeanor resolute. By now, the case against Christopher Halston had grown increasingly airtight, with a steady stream of evidence painting a vivid portrait of his fraudulent empire. Yet Christopher, undeterred, continued to project an air of supreme confidence. He leaned back in his chair as if he were watching a mildly entertaining performance rather than standing trial for orchestrating a massive financial scam. His smirk, once a symbol of arrogance, now appeared more like a mask, a desperate attempt to maintain control in a situation rapidly slipping through his fingers. The prosecution's case reached a critical turning point with the introduction of a key witness, a former high-ranking executive from Halston's own company. The witness, an older man with a weathered face and a quiet dignity, had come forward after years of wrestling with his conscience. Dressed in a simple suit, he walked to the stand with a determined expression, clutching a folder that he claimed contained incontrovertible evidence of Christopher's crimes. As he took the oath and began his testimony, the room fell into an expectant silence. "I worked for Mr. Halston for nearly a decade," the man began, his voice steady but tinged with regret. "At first, I believed in his vision. He was charismatic, persuasive, and he promised a future of success for everyone involved. But as the years went on, I started to see the cracks. I witnessed how he manipulated numbers, falsified reports, and created an intricate web of shell companies to hide his illicit activities." He paused, scanning the room as if searching for understanding. His eyes landed briefly on Christopher, whose expression remained unreadable, though a slight twitch of his jaw betrayed his discomfort. "I stayed silent for too long," the witness continued, his voice cracking with emotion. "I justified it to myself, thinking I was just following orders, that I had no choice. But the truth is, I was complicit. And I'm here today to make amends." The courtroom hung on his every word. Judge Reyes leaned forward slightly, her sharp eyes locked on the witness. The gallery was silent except for the faint scribbling of reporters' pens and the occasional murmur from the spectators. The witness proceeded to detail the mechanics of Christopher's schemes, using charts and diagrams to illustrate the flow of money through a labyrinth of offshore accounts. His folder contained emails, financial statements, and memos, all damning evidence that corroborated the prosecution's claims. As the witness laid bare the inner workings of Christopher's operations, the tension in the courtroom grew almost unbearable. The defense team scrambled to find cracks in his testimony, their cross-examination peppered with attempts to undermine his credibility. They questioned his motives, suggesting that he was testifying out of spite or a desire for personal gain. But the witness remained unshaken, answering each question with calm precision. My motive, he said at one point, his voice steady, is to do what's right. Something I should have done a long time ago. Christopher, who had remained largely impassive throughout the trial, seemed visibly agitated for the first time. He tapped his fingers against the table, his smirk replaced by a tight-lipped expression that betrayed his growing unease. Judge Reyes noticed the shift, her gaze flicking briefly to Christopher before returning to the witness. She allowed the testimony to proceed uninterrupted, her presence a steadying force in the increasingly charged atmosphere. The courtroom's attention was next drawn to the defense's star witness, a forensic accountant hired to refute the prosecution's claims. The expert, a polished professional with an impressive resume, took the stand with confidence, armed with reports designed to challenge the credibility of the evidence presented against Christopher. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the defense might regain some ground. The accountant spoke with authority, pointing out discrepancies in the prosecution's charts and questioning the reliability of the whistleblower's recordings. But Judge Reyes, ever vigilant, intervened with pointed questions that exposed the limitations of the defense's arguments. "You've highlighted potential inconsistencies in the data," she said, her tone measured but firm, "but have you conducted a thorough analysis of the primary documents provided by the prosecution?" The witness hesitated, clearly unprepared for the question. "No, Your Honor," he admitted reluctantly. "My analysis was based on summaries provided by the defense team." The gallery buzzed with murmurs, the defense's case visibly weakened by the revelation. Judge Reyes nodded, her expression unreadable but her message clear: superficial arguments would not suffice in her courtroom. The prosecution seized the opportunity to discredit the defense's expert, further solidifying their case against Christopher. By the time the trial entered its final days, the outcome seemed all but inevitable. The evidence was overwhelming, the witnesses compelling, and the defense increasingly desperate. Christopher's once impenetrable confidence had given way to visible frustration. He frequently whispered harshly to his lawyers, his impatience evident as he realized the walls were closing in. Yet, true to form, he couldn't resist one last attempt to assert control. During the prosecution's closing arguments, Christopher interrupted, standing abruptly and addressing the court without permission. "This entire trial is a sham," he declared, his voice booming. "You're all wasting your time. This judge, this court, they're out to get me because I'm successful, because I've achieved what they never could." The room erupted in gasps, reporters scrambling to capture the moment. Judge Reyes's gavel struck sharply, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Mr. Halston," she said, her tone icy, "sit down immediately, or I will hold you in contempt of court." The gallery fell silent as Christopher hesitated, his bravado faltering under the weight of her authority. He reluctantly returned to his seat, his outburst doing nothing to help his already dire situation. In her final address to the court, Judge Reyes delivered a powerful statement. Her words, though calm and measured, carried the weight of justice. "This trial," she said, "is not about wealth or power. It is about accountability. The evidence presented here has revealed a pattern of deceit and manipulation that cannot be ignored. No one, regardless of their status, is above the law." As the gavel struck for the final time, the courtroom erupted into applause, a rare and unsanctioned display of emotion that spoke to the impact of the trial. Outside, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps, eager to capture reactions and analyze the implications of what had transpired. Christopher Halston, escorted out by his legal team, avoided the cameras, his once unshakable confidence reduced to a shadow of its former self. Judge Reyes, meanwhile, returned to her chambers, her expression a mix of resolve and exhaustion. She knew the journey for justice was far from over, there would be appeals, media scrutiny, and the ongoing challenge of holding those in power accountable. But as she sat at her desk, reflecting on the trial, she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. Justice had prevailed, and though the road had been long and arduous, it had been worth every step. As the courtroom emptied and the echoes of the trial lingered in the corridors, Judge Monica Reyes sat quietly in her chambers, reflecting on the weight of what had transpired. The trial of Christopher Halston was not merely about the intricate web of deceit he had woven, it was about something much larger. It was a moment when justice had the opportunity to prove itself resilient, unyielding, and uncorrupted by wealth or influence. For Judge Reyes, it was a testament to the enduring power of accountability and the importance of standing firm against the forces of privilege and arrogance that often seek to evade the rule of law. Outside the courthouse, the atmosphere was electric. Crowds had gathered, some celebrating the trial's outcome, others debating its implications. Reporters delivered impassioned summaries for live broadcasts, their microphones capturing the charged emotions of the moment. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #JusticePrevails and #HalstonTrial, sparking discussions that transcended the confines of the courtroom. For many, this was more than just a legal case. It was a symbol of hope, a rare example of the powerful being held accountable. For others, it was a reminder of the deep-seated inequities that still persisted, fueling a desire for continued reform. Christopher Halston's downfall was both a personal and public spectacle. His carefully constructed facade of invincibility had been dismantled piece by piece, leaving him to confront the reality of his actions and their consequences. The once arrogant billionaire, who had strutted into the courtroom as though he owned it, now left as a man stripped of his influence and reputation. His legal team, visibly strained, prepared for the uphill battle of appeals and damage control. But the overwhelming evidence, coupled with the powerful witness testimonies and the firm hand of Judge Reyes, left little room for doubt about his culpability. For Judge Reyes, this trial was a milestone in a career dedicated to upholding the principles of fairness and integrity. It reaffirmed her belief in the justice system's potential to enact meaningful change, even in the face of immense opposition. The road had not been easy. Navigating the trial required a delicate balance of authority and composure, especially when faced with Christopher's relentless provocations. Yet, through it all, she had remained steadfast, ensuring that the courtroom remained a place of dignity and order. As she gathered her thoughts, Monica knew the trial's ripple effects would extend far beyond the courthouse walls. It had ignited a conversation about privilege, accountability, and the power dynamics inherent in the justice system. It had reminded people that justice, though imperfect, was a pursuit worth fighting for. And it had shown that, even in the face of wealth and arrogance, integrity could prevail. With a quiet sigh, Monica closed the case file, her heart filled with a mix of exhaustion and fulfillment. She knew there would be more battles ahead, more challenges that would test her resolve. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of peace, knowing that she had done her part to ensure that justice was not just a lofty ideal but a lived reality. As she prepared for the next day, she carried with her the enduring hope that every act of accountability, no matter how small, brought society one step closer to a more equitable future. The story of Judge Monica Reyes resonates deeply with the challenges many of us face in our personal and professional lives. Her unyielding resolve in the face of privilege, arrogance, and societal expectations serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of staying true to one's principles. Life often presents situations where it feels easier to compromise, to remain silent in the face of wrongdoing, or to let the powerful escape accountability. However, Monica's story teaches us that integrity and perseverance, though difficult, are essential in navigating these challenges and effecting meaningful change. In your current life, there may be times when you encounter injustice, whether it's in the workplace, within your community, or even in personal relationships. It's easy to feel powerless, especially when the odds seem stacked against you or when you face individuals who use their influence to manipulate outcomes. But just as Monica maintained her composure and trusted the strength of her convictions, you too can approach such moments with a steady hand and a clear conscience. Recognize that standing firm in your values might not yield immediate results, but it sets the foundation for lasting impact and respect. One key lesson from Monica's story is the importance of composure. In moments of confrontation or tension, emotions can run high, leading to reactions that may undermine your credibility or resolve. Monica's ability to remain calm and measured, even when provoked, demonstrates the power of self-control. When faced with challenges in your own life, take a step back, breathe deeply, and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This not only preserves your integrity but also positions you as a person of strength and character, earning the respect of others, even those who may initially oppose you. Another significant takeaway is the role of preparation and expertise. Monica's confidence stemmed not only from her moral clarity but also from her deep knowledge of the law and her years of experience. Similarly, in your life, investing in your own growth and education can be a powerful tool for overcoming obstacles. Whether it's acquiring new skills, staying informed about your field, or developing a deeper understanding of the issues you care about, preparation equips you to face challenges with confidence and competence. When you know your subject matter or your rights, it becomes harder for others to dismiss or undermine you. The story also underscores the value of community support. While Monica held her ground alone in the courtroom, her impact resonated far beyond its walls, inspiring those around her and rallying a community to stand for justice. In your life, recognize the power of collective strength. Seek out allies who share your values and can offer encouragement, guidance, or even just a listening ear. Whether it's friends, family, colleagues, or a broader network, having a strong support system can make the burden of standing up for what's right feel less overwhelming. Lastly, Monica's story is a testament to faith in persistence. Justice is not always swift, and change rarely happens overnight. But through her unwavering dedication, she demonstrated that small, consistent acts of integrity can culminate in significant shifts. In your own life, remember that setbacks and failures are not the end. They are stepping stones toward progress. Keep pushing forward, even when the path feels uncertain, trusting that your efforts will contribute to a greater good. Applying these lessons to your current life involves cultivating patience, maintaining integrity, and believing in the power of your actions. Whether you are facing a personal challenge, advocating for a cause, or striving to make a difference in your community, let Monica's story inspire you to approach your journey with courage and determination. Trust that your principles, combined with thoughtful action, will guide you toward meaningful outcomes. Above all, remember that the pursuit of what is right, no matter how daunting, is always worth it.
Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, please comment below the video. Please subscribe to the channel to support us.